I've known Steve for several years. I should say I've known of Steve for many years. And part of the reason that I know of Steve for many years is he's usually at AAISP, and he has the American Association of Inside Sales Professionals, and he has standing room only in his sessions. And the reason I would know this is that oftentimes I was up against him in a session, and Steve got the plum spot on the main floor. I'd be down in the dungeon, in the place where if you really wanted to. So Bob would say, "Oh yeah, you want to be on the agenda? Yeah, there's like this basement thing. We've got 2 rooms down there. If you want to be down there, you can be down there." And there'd be like 10 people showing up, and I'd always go, "Dang, that Steve Richard is actually going up against me." And so I've never actually seen a session, Steve, except for when he came out to Dallas. But Steve is the founder and of 2 different companies, Exec Vision and Foresight, and has a lot of amazing resources, and including the daily. Were you on a bike ride today?
Yeah, I bike to the office to get the mail on Wednesdays.
Awesome. So Steve does a sales minute, and usually it's during his exercise routine. So you kind of know what Steve's doing for exercise that day based off what he's wearing, whether it's the headband or whether it's the bike helmet. Today was the bike helmet. And then he has Call Camp, which is also interesting. So Steve has just developed a lot of resources around productivity, and we're just excited to have him here today, Steve. That's my opening to you, is personalized and real and not all the accolades, but I think you're already pretty impressive, so we'll just let you go.
Hey, how nice. What a nice introduction. I appreciate that. Thank you, Dr. Dover. I'm just looking to see people who are here right now. So here's the reality. The reality of the situation is I did not prep at all, but I don't really prep most ever. It's pretty bad. But I got about 50 presentations in the bag, and there are some things that I'm thinking about right now that are interesting to me, and I think I might go a little bit down that path, and we'll make this a bit of a potpourri. But I want to ask you this, for all of you: you're here for a reason. Why are you here? Is there a pressing challenge that you're facing? Is there an opportunity for your business or your team? Is there a topic that's of interest? Is there a trend you're thinking about? And this is real. I'm not like even joking around. I want to see it. And could we get, I don't know, Dr. Dover, if you want to jump in, or Stephanie, but as people, hopefully someone chat something in here for what they're thinking about as we start going along. I'm here for you. I want to make this to be a very, very good use of your time. And I'll open with some interesting things that we're seeing right now in the pandemic world. They seem to be topics that I'm discussing with a variety of different people in different settings. So do we have anybody, what do you care about? Like, what are the topics that you're thinking about? What are the trends that you're thinking about? What are the challenges you're facing? Pop them in there. Pop them in there. And if not, don't worry, I got plenty of material, so we can go and start covering some of these items.
So we do have a note from Alfred that says they're looking for more qualified leads that lead to great meetings. DK says mentoring and coaching students and professional selling, and they're still rolling in.
All right, great. I love that. So we'll talk about, more. You're kidding. You want more qualified leads and opportunities and meetings that generate opportunities in your pipeline? I never would have thought it. Unbelievable. Incredible. So, all right. Let me start also by telling my backstory, because I think it will help you, it will be relevant. My backstory is I originally was in finance. I never was in finance, but an undergraduate finance major. I tried to get a job in investment banking in New York. I went 0 for 22, literally 0 for 22. I had a spreadsheet. It was like God's way of telling you don't be in finance. I then got a job in sales. I went to sales interviews. Someone said, you should be in sales. I'm like, I don't know what that means, but sure. I thought it was used cars, right? And then I went 5 for 5 in sales interviews, and I said, maybe there's something. And I was very lucky. I started at a company that many of you probably know called the Corporate Executive Board. They were the people who wrote the Challenger sale. Now, this is way before the Challenger sale and all that, stuff happened. And I was in a sales floor of 100 salespeople that we now call sales development reps, or SDRs. And I was failing. And our job was to get in the door, book appointments, generate leads, just like you're talking about. And I was failing, and I saw a lot of my colleagues that were really successful. So I'm like, what are they doing that I'm not doing? The other part of the story is I had 60,000 in school loans, and our family business is septic tanks. So like literally septic systems. You know the punchline of this. Ready, Stephanie? How's business? She's not going to say it. She's not going to say it. She won't say it. See,
I'm sorry.
she's too conservative to say it. It's a joke. So my whole point is I had to figure it out. Otherwise, I was going to be in the septic tank business. And one of the things that I saw, I sat with people and I wrote down what they did. And here's the biggest aha. What works for someone at a point in time, depending on what you sell and who you sell to, will not work always. And there's these misconceptions that are out there. There are a lot of people who are kind of like, back in the day, this is how we did it and it was successful. Well, times change. What you sell changes, who you sell to changes over time. And we always have to be testing and measuring, which was something that Morgan did talk about, but I'm going to give you more granular. So I'm going to give you some things as it relates to lead gen. People are always asking questions like, is the phone dead? Well, I'm going to show you some data. It depends on when you're calling. Pre-pandemic, we were sometimes seeing dial to connect rate. So this is the number of dials to get a connect. Very important thing to measure if you're trying to generate leads by the phone, cold calling, or calling leads, warm lead follow. In this case, it's all cold calling. This is from my business foresight. It's coming from about 22 reps on the phone, calling all different functional areas: finance, HR, supply chain, logistics, sales, marketing, you name it. And what was really interesting is when the pandemic started, it's a perfect example of why you have to test. Look at times of the day like Monday morning. Like historically, Monday morning is not a very good time to call. But for that 3 months, it was magic to call on Monday morning because everyone's worlds had got flipped upside down. Friday, March 13th, the infamous Friday the 13th hit, and the world shut down, and it was like bizarre. And people were knocked off their access. Okay. We also started to see the emergence of a really good time to call. Dial to connect rates during lunch were really good. Let me show you what happens as the pandemic goes on. This is interesting. So we also start to see, so here's how, as the pandemic rolls along, we're looking at September, October, November. By this point, people have kind of settled into their pandemic routines. We no longer called it coronavirus. We called it COVID. All these things changed. But notice some of these things that are just remarkable. We were seeing dial to connect rates plummeting. I mean, some of the best dial to connect rates we've ever seen, if not the best we've ever seen. And there's a couple of reasons for it. One, we made a huge investment in mobile numbers, both through the paid data tools, and you should know the paid data tools. The principal ones are, of course, Zoom Info, Sales Intel, Seamless, and Lead IQ. So those are the 4 dominant B2B, sales dialing or sales data tools. And we got a lot more mobile numbers, and also something called TruePeopleSearch.com, which is just a source of phone numbers. And actually, while I'm on it, I'll even just show you right here because this is just so fascinating. And we will do Howard. Let's see if this works for you, my friend. Okay, and we're going to go to, all right. And why this is online, I have absolutely no idea, but frequently they don't seem to, in your case, have your mobile number, but frequently they will have people's mobile numbers. Although, is that where you live? I'm sure you want me showing this on the webinar, right?
It is.
Again, why is that there? I don't know. TruePeopleSearch.com. But again, it goes back to the world is changing, and if you're not testing and measuring and then changing along with it, you're going to get left in the dust. Because the stuff that's not going to work anymore. If it worked a couple of years ago and it's stopping working, you got to measure that. You got to do something different. So we love lunch. Here's the second reason. So mobile numbers is one. The second reason is when we make phone calls now, we're leveraging, there are various dialing technologies, sales engagement technologies that some of the people on this might be familiar with. Zant, Dial Source, which is now Concur, SalesLoft, Outreach, and many others. There's a lot of them, FrontSpin. And what some of them allow you to do is they buy a batch of phone numbers for you. So now we're going to talk about caller ID. It's one of the things you're like, what caller ID? What does this have to do with anything? It has a ton to do with everything. And here's the data to prove it. This is not my opinion. I didn't like roll out of bed and make this up. Why were we seeing 20 dials to connect instead of 31? That's over a third more efficient. Why? Because my Vorsight business owns all these phone numbers, like 100 of them, and they're doing what we call social dialing. So what social dialing is, you know, the whole area-based dialing or regional, so it's like it matches your area code. Well, the measurement that we've done is when we do dialing like that, our dial to connect rates are worse. So at one point, you know, not many years ago, you know, 6, 7, 8 years ago in like 2012, 13, 14, when that technology was picking up, InsideSales.com kind of launched it in B2B. It was, you know, it was novel, people didn't know about it, and we were getting amazing dial to connect rates, but as with anything else, the pendulum starts to sort of swing back, and when everyone zigs, we zag. So then all of a sudden everyone zigged and they started doing area-based dialing. So what do? We zagged, and now we're doing social dialing, meaning we'll look at your background, like where are you originally from? Maybe you lived someplace at one point in your career. Maybe you had a short-term stint, Dr. Dover, in, I don't know, New York. So instead of picking a 972 area code or a 214, we're going to go grab a 212 or a 646 from the time that you were living in New York, or maybe a 914 or 917. And the likelihood of you answering the phone goes up significantly. So anyway, I bring this more as a microcosm of the thinking you need to have in this modern day and time, because it's different. It's so different now than it was before. So I offer that. I'll give you another one. I don't know if there are any questions or comments on that, but I'm going to give you another one here, which is, so this is fascinating. So one of the things that when I work with, now we're a technology company, Exec Vision, but many of our customers, we help them with sales training and performance improvement, just as kind of an extra gravy kind of bonus, because that's my background is sales training and consulting. So we've tested this 3-step social selling formula in the past, and it's proven to be fairly successful. Step 1, you connect on LinkedIn using 3x3 research. What that means is finding 3 points on the company or contact in 3 minutes of research, saying something relevant about the company or the individual or the organization, right? So maybe UT Dallas has just launched a new department, and then Dr. Dover named you as the chair, you know, or Stephanie, you were awarded some fellowship or something like that. I'm going to want to reference that, you know, I mean, this is news. Or honestly, even this event, Dr. Dover, I saw that you had your, you know, your big summit. Okay, so 3x3 research. So the whole idea behind that is we're going to say something about them. It's going to flip their brain into a mode called system 2. The probability of them accepting the connection is pretty high, because all we're asking for at that point is accept the connection request. Then step 2, share a content piece. Then step 3 is then go for the ask, the appointment. Now this is interesting. So you look at this and you go, that's neat, it's different. It's not cold calling, right? It's not cold emailing. It's not using video prospecting messages, which, by the way, all the testing that we've done and people I know who have done tests with video prospecting messages say the same thing. They don't get a better result than email. You know, when you get one of those like things where you get an email, it's like a recorded video of someone. I have yet to see someone show me A/B test results where group B performed better than A. People go, yeah, it works, but I go, well, I don't care how well it works compared to itself. How does it work compared to another medium? In this case, an email. How does it work? A a video message, or a Vidyard, or a Loom. How does it work? Compared, and on a percentage basis, the testing we've done has shown doesn't really make a difference. So it's more time intensive to do the video, so therefore do the email. Anyway, back to this, the point of the story. When we've tested this before in our own business, it's been very successful. If, get ready for this, our sales reps are logged in on LinkedIn as me, because, you know, Dr. Dover, your point about in the introduction, I am an AISP, I don't know, groupie rat. I don't know what you call me exactly. I'm just always going to all the events. I was, and you know, hanger on, and they would put me in various panels and speaking slots and all that. So as a result, a lot of the people in the inside sales community, like it or not, were probably exposed to me at some point in time. And if they went, you know what, that guy's actually got some good shit to say, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to remember that, and just, they don't remember it, but they kind of say, oh yeah, there's that Steve Richard guy, right? So when we have our reps logged in on LinkedIn as me doing this, it works. When we have our reps logged in as themselves on LinkedIn doing this, it doesn't work. It's actually 3 times more successful when they do this if they're logged in as me than if they're themselves, which is fascinating. So anyway, I brought this to a client. By the way, if you sell to IT, we've had clients test it there, doesn't work. IT people don't hang out on LinkedIn. It's very hard to get IT people in general, especially C-level IT people in like Fortune 500 companies. That is tough sledding. I brought this to a client of ours that sells, it's a marketing agency selling to like people who do social media marketing. And here's what they found. It was fascinating. They did step one. They were seeing a 35% acceptance rate on the LinkedIn connection. That's a good number. We like that, really good. Then they did step two, 0%. Then they did step three, 0%. They didn't get any meetings. They did 372 of these and they got 0 meetings, but over 100 LinkedIn connections. Well, there are some benefits to being connected on LinkedIn. So they're reaping the benefits, but ultimately what we learned is that doesn't work. Why did we learn it? Because we tested it and we measured it and now we know. So it's no longer, I don't think that works. I don't feel like, I don't care how you feel. I really don't. I don't care what you think. All I care about is this thing converting and can we show it with the numbers? So now they're connected to a lot of people on LinkedIn, which is snazzy. That's great because the prospects will see when they put content on their feed, just like, you know, my tips of the day that you had referenced earlier. And check this out. A lot of people don't know this. Did you know that about a third of people on LinkedIn put their mobile number? And a bit over 50% of people on LinkedIn put their personal email address. Why is that important? Well, if you've gone to those handy dandy information tools and you haven't been able to get in contact with someone and you've tried their work email and you've tried their direct line, their landline in their office that they, oh, by the way, don't go to anymore, and you can't get a mobile number, this is another great way to get a mobile number that people don't think about. And this is what it looks like when you're on Navigator. Navigator takes an extra step. It sort of says, you'll see retrieved from the CRM versus retrieved from the LinkedIn profile. So there's a lot of benefits to being connected. You can also follow the people from place to place. We call it old customer, new company. So the best source of business is following your customers from company to company and company, but most people don't do it. They're not proactive. They wait for the customer to maybe get in touch with them. I want to be the first phone call that customer gets when they land at their new company. Why? Because we know that about 70 to 80% of discretionary spending happens in the first 100 days of a new executive landing in tenure. We know that. So I want to be there and shape their buying vision from the minute they land in their new job, or at least the first few weeks. Let me give you a result of a test that a friend of mine ran where it worked, and you'll notice what the difference is. So in this example, we're seeing there's an initial connection request. By the way, this was all automated. I have not used these tools, but I've learned of them. Cleverly is the one he used, but there's another one called Connected in there. I think there are a lot more too. But basically what it is, it's almost like sales engagement solutions for LinkedIn specifically. So you can program in like, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and it automates it. You just tell it like what personas you're going after, what title, what level. So if you look at this one right here, connection request, okay? They're getting 29% accepted connections. Good stuff, right? That's a pretty good number. When it goes below 15%, 1 in 8, it's almost not worth doing. Then step 2, this is what's interesting. They've changed the offer. Here's a new concept for you as you think about your lead gen to, was it Fred? Fred was that asked, Stephanie? Oh, she can't. Her microphone's over, and that's okay. Whoever that is that asked about lead gen. So an interesting thing that we're seeing with lead gen, because I'll tell you what, it's tougher now than it used to be. The world has changed. We're seeing that companies are leveraging interesting offers. And when I say an offer, what I mean by that is it's almost like a fishing metaphor, like the bait on the end of the hook. Like what's the bait you put on the end of the hook? And in this case, what's the offer? Free PR placements, public relations placements. And he's sending this to CEOs and founders of fintech companies. So if you're the founder of a fintech company and someone comes to you and initially they say, hey, I thought you might be someone who might want to be featured in some publications. Yeah, sure, I'll accept that. 29% of them did. Then in the next step, what do? They said, here are some of the publications. And then step 3 is, now, you know, a lot of people write back to that and say, yes, please, I'll take my free placement in Forbes. Thank you very much. That sounds great. And then if that doesn't work, step 3 goes out, and then finally step 4. They're seeing if they do this 100 times, they're getting 11 meetings for every 100 of these that they're doing. Really good data, really, really good number. So anyway, long answer to a short question. It is basically everything you do depends. It depends on what you sell and who you sell to. And the only way to know if something is going to work is you got to test and measure it along the way. I'll give you another interesting one that I recently, I mean, this one is hot off the press so much so I haven't even made it into a slide yet. Okay, but if you follow along. So they said they're okay with me sharing that this is from them. It's a company called Fireman in Dallas. It's in the Dallas area. And some of you may know Kristen Twain. And what they've done that's really clever is they send these calendar invitations. And they're what I'll call unsolicited calendar invitations. And I'll walk you through what that means. Hang on, let me just zoom in so you can see it a little bit better. Okay. So here's how it flows. Ready? So step number one, they send what I will refer to as a fairly generic email. This is the sort of email that sales development reps pump out all day long through sales engagement solutions like the Sales Loss Outreaches, Conquer, Zant, et cetera. And they don't expect the people to write back. They're going after information security professionals, network operations professionals, those kinds of things, okay? Step two, they send out, ye olde classic reminder email. But here's where the twist starts. Because like everyone does this, like every cadence looks like this, right? But here's where the twist is. I know you're busy, so to make this easier for you, I'm gonna send you an invite that works for our team and please propose another if that time doesn't work. So it's like the plead for forgiveness rather than ask for permission approach. Interesting, okay? Step three, they send the calendar invite. And when they do it, they send it to anywhere between 2 and 10 members of the same department. So these are coworkers. Now, initially when I saw this, I'm like, come on, guys, that must really rub these people the wrong way. I mean, talk about presumptive, right? You're sending them, or assumptive, presumptive, I don't even know the right word. You're sending them a calendar invite to the whole department? They must get pissed off. Are they angry? Nope. They said once in a while you have someone say, what is this regarding? Or they give a little bit of an angry reply. Once in a blue moon, they will get someone that says like, do not do this to us again. We don't appreciate this approach. But for the most part, they're saying it's really working there as well. Then after that, they send a reminder email prior to the meeting. And I'm putting that in air quotes because there's no agreement for the meeting. There's just a calendar invite on everybody's calendar. And then finally, they do a reply all to the calendar invite itself, just saying, propose another time if this doesn't work. You know what they said? Now I'm still looking to get the exact numbers. What they said is fascinating, and I'll show you some of the stuff at the top. They said out of the 84 stage 1 sales opportunities from last year that this one SDR got, one SDR supports 3 reps, 50 of those were for this one guy using this approach. So right off the bat, that turned my head. That tells me that 84 minus 50 is 34. That means each of the other sales reps got 17 with a traditional approach, and this guy, Sean, got 50 with this new, novel, unsolicited calendar invite approach. Fascinating, right? So here, I literally talked to these guys yesterday about this. This is why it's fresh out the kitchen. This is the kind of stuff I think about. Yes, I am weird, and yes, I'm a sales geek. So I said, guys, that's all well and good, but I need to know how many accounts did you target and how many of those turned into completed appointments? Because I'm not going to get excited about it until I see if we target 100 accounts, we're getting 20% of them to take appointments, 30% of them to take appointments. And the benchmark that you're always going to want to work off of is this little gem right here. And I think a lot of you have probably seen this before. It's research from Chet Holmes International. Amanda Holmes actually comes to some AISPs. His daughter, sadly, he passed away of cancer at a young age, very tragically. His daughter's amazing. And it says, what this says is, at any given time, in any given market, 3% of your market's actively buying, 40% is susceptible to looking or poised to begin looking, but they're not actively buying today. So what does that mean? Here's what it means to me. If I employ a general cadence or a general, calling, call blitz or pick whatever, I'm going to get about 3% of the market. Actually, I'll probably get 2, because part of the market will not even be interested in talking to me, even though they're actively buying. They'll say, oh, thanks, I'm all set. They're just objecting to the experience of being sold to. But 40% of the market is susceptible to looking. So if you're trying to do lead generation to whoever asked that question, a big thing you're trying to figure out, by the way, this also goes for your existing customers. If you're trying to generate opportunities and leads within your existing customer base, the way you want to think about it is like, okay, if we do this to 100 accounts, what percentage of them are we going to get? Because if the answer is 3%, I'm just not that excited. That's kind of like par for the course. If the answer is 10%, I'm interested. If the answer is 20%, I'm really interested. If the answer is 30 or 40%, I'm going to get on an airplane, even the COVID world, fly over there and see what the heck you're doing, document it, and then complete it. Make sense? So this gives you a bit of a sense of, what we're talking about here is you have to have some benchmark information to get started. And once you have that benchmark information, then you can roll and you can know what's going on. All right. I have thrown a lot at you. We can switch the topic here. We can go, how much time? Are we out of time anyway, right? I think we're just
We got
about
about 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Well, there you go. 2 minutes. We could either listen to why don't we actually listen to ourselves a call? Will that sound good? We'll break down a call. I know I'm not related to any of this, but it actually kind of is related to any of this, because if we go into Salesforce and if we go to our dashboard and if we're looking at our dial to connect rates, I want to understand what the batting average of my rep is. And if the batting average of my rep is not at a good place, like if they're not a 250 hitter or a 300 hitter, it actually lines up just with baseball. Then I want to be able to call coach and help those people get out to get better. All right. So we're going to go in here and we're going to do a little call coaching here. Let's go to inbox and we're going to do a calls that were shared with me where feedback was requested. And maybe I already did this one. We will see. This was, okay, I'm going to play just the end of this call for you guys. It's one I already did, but this is wonderful. Here we go. This is one where he learned it's unqualified. I want you to hear, how did the rep transition to ask questions to get referral? Fascinating.
Okay, give you another phone.
And so the problem is you can't coach people on the phone.
That does make sense.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but not that we're not in the market right now, because that's, if you could tell me, predict when a business has people available to talk, you would make $1 billion and have the greatest technology ever. But that is not. If you don't mind me asking, and I'm not. So. This is kind of out of my curiosity. Are there multiple teams that are in the business? Okay. Are there other teams that may be selling to a less niche market? Yeah, there's 4. Yeah, and there's 4 different divisions within.
And that's what I wanted you to hear. So leading up to this call, this is a classic example of an inbound lead that's unqualified. So what did Pete do a great job of? And this is really where we have to get our teams coached and trained and all those things on. He then pivoted the conversation to uncover other people in the same organization that are other leaders in the same company, in other departments, that are excellent, that have 20 or more people on the phone, that are aligned with our ideal customer profile. So I thought this was just a nice way to end, to be able to hear like how it all comes together in being able to use the data, understand what's going on, and then hear that the reps are really doing things the right way when they get on the phones. All right, so with that, I think I yield the balance of my time to Mr. Mario Martinez, right? The senator from Florida, right, Mario? I'm trying to remember. Texas? Where are you from?
No, he's moonlighting out there in the islands of Hawaii.